I had lived in my apartment for 3 years without any real trouble. It was a quiet street, mostly older residents, with just a few of us younger tenants scattered among them. My life was uneventful. I worked during the day, came home, made dinner, maybe watched a movie before bed. It was the kind of calm you didn't really appreciate until it was gone, and it vanished the night I heard the scream. It was late, just after midnight. I had been lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when a sound tore through the stillness, a scream so sharp and desperate that it made my blood run cold. It came from the apartment next door. My neighbor, Eric, lived there. He was in his mid-40s, quiet, polite, always a bit reserved. We'd exchanged small talk a few times, but I didn't know much about him. At first, I froze. I didn't know if I should call the police or check it out myself. But then I heard something else, a loud thud, like furniture being knocked over, followed by a series of muffled noises. My instinct told me something was horribly wrong. I threw on a hoodie and stepped into the hallway. The air was thick. Heavy, like the building itself was holding its breath. I approached Eric's door and listened. At first, nothing. Then, dragging sounds. Slow, deliberate. And beneath that, a faint metallic scrape. I knocked. Eric? You okay? No answer. I knocked again, louder. That's when I heard a voice, low, strained, go back inside. Something about the tone wasn't right. It wasn't fear. It wasn't panic. It was command. I stood there for a few more seconds, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then I turned and went back to my apartment. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. By the time the police arrived, less than 10 minutes later, the hallway smelled faintly of bleach. Eric answered the door, looking sweaty and slightly out of breath. He smiled at the officers and insisted everything was fine. He claimed he dropped a heavy box and that his TV had been playing an action movie loudly. I could tell the officers didn't fully believe him. But they didn't have cause to enter, so they left. Eric glanced at me on his way back inside. That glance, it was cold. Calculated. Like he knew I'd called them. The next day, I noticed something strange in the dumpster out back, a large, black trash bag. It was lumpy, irregular in shape, and stained in places with what looked like a dark red-brown substance. My gut twisted. I didn't touch it. But later that afternoon, it was gone. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, letting my mind run wild. But 2 days later, the news broke. A woman's body had been found in a wooded area just outside town. She had been strangled. Her name was Vanessa. She was in her late 20s, lived a few blocks away. I didn't know her personally, but I'd seen her before, walking her dog, sometimes grabbing coffee at the corner shop. And I had seen her one other time, leaving Eric's apartment about a week ago. I didn't want to believe it. But my gut told me the scream, the dragging sounds, the bleach, it was all connected. A week later, I came home from work to find an envelope taped to my door. No address, no stamp. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 2 words written in neat, block letters, "Stop talking." I hadn't been talking to anyone. I hadn't told anyone what I'd heard that night except the police dispatcher. That meant Eric knew. He was watching me that night. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the building, every shadow in the hallway felt threatening. Around 2 a.m., I heard a soft knock at my door. Not loud. Just 3 slow taps. I didn't answer. My phone was in my hand, ready to call 911 again, but the knocking stopped after about 10 seconds. The next morning, there was another note under my door. This one read, "They won't believe you. But they'll believe me." The implication was clear. If I pushed this, Eric would turn it around on me. And in some twisted way, he might succeed. Over the next few days, I noticed small changes in my apartment. A cup moved from the kitchen counter to the table. A window I swore I had closed was slightly ajar. I started to wonder if Eric had been inside while I was gone. I changed the locks. I bought a small camera and hid it in my living room. The footage the next day made my blood run cold. At 1:42 a.m., my front door opened. Eric stepped inside, moving slowly, deliberately. He looked around, opened a few drawers, and then walked right up to the camera. He stared into it for a long moment and smiled, then he left. I took the footage straight to the police. This time, they didn't brush it off. They got a warrant and searched Eric's apartment. What they found was worse than I could have imagined. Hidden in his closet were several women's belongings, purses, jewelry, scarves, all linked to missing women from the past 5 years. And in a locked trunk, they found photographs. Hundreds of them. Every one of them of his victims, alive and not alive, and then there was a photograph of me. Taken from outside my window while I slept. Eric was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. But the nightmares haven't stopped. I still wake up at night thinking I hear those 3 slow taps on my door, because even though he's behind bars, I can't shake the feeling that he's still watching.